now she's gonna sit on stage. So we could, there's an outlet right next to the podium, and then, we could put the extension cord next to the podium and try to get the camera as close to her, because she's sitting right there.
Okay, there's a battery attached, so you can move stuff, and I'll move it. Try to move it, but it's fine. This one is unplugged.
It's on now. Just still on. Yeah. Do you want to hold the computer and not move anything?
So,
a chair.
I don't know, thank you for being here this evening. I know we are a small group and we will try to have a different, similar presentation another day when it's somewhere closer to the student community center. And maybe at a different time when they're not in conflict, so more students can come. But what I wanted to do is just have, probably we'll go through a presentation, but we can, since we are so few, we can have a more interactive session here. And stop me anytime you wish and so forth. We can do this interactively. This is, I wanted to say a few words about, this is the presentation that I give every year to the Senate, to the faculty Senate. So it's a part of what we do throughout the year. Every February, there is a particular Senate Assembly meeting with all the senators, from faculty senators, who is devoted specifically to talking about the state of the campus and where we go. And so we give a sense of what has happened last year, what are the opportunities or challenges for next year, so it gives more of a sense of where we are and where we go. A similar presentation I also give to the foundation board for the campus, and I don't know how many of you know what the foundation board is, but we have a foundation which is where we put our endowments, and this foundation board is a group of individuals who are selected to make sure that they pay attention to the endowments, they do the right investments, and make sure that the funds from those endowments have been used according to the wishes of the individuals who have given the money to the university. And so this board also meets around that time. Usually it's the Senate first and then the board. And so I modified a little bit knowing the interest of the groups, and I give a similar presentation to them. So we thought it would be good to give a similar presentation to the students, and so you can see what we've done this past year, what were the issues and what we're doing. So that's what it is, and that is myself, because it was in busy form. I mean, I think you guys use it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Good, because for us it's new. I used to use PowerPoint, but I like this a lot. And so let me just start. So this is what I wanted to speak about, these 6 bullets that primarily talks about Miss Davis and what we call the vision of excellence, which is really a framework that we developed about 5 years ago to really speak about what the university wants to accomplish in the near and longer term. We call it the vision of excellence. Obviously, it has very high goals, and it's something that we will revisit again every 5 years. We need to revisit it and make sure that it really reflects the aspirations of the campus. And then I wanted to show you about what happened last year in a just summary form. What have been the campus-wide initiatives. I wanted to show you where we are with the comprehensive campaign. This month, as a matter of fact, we had an event to celebrate the end of the campaign. This one is our first campaign for the university. I wanted to speak about the campus capital plan that we are working on, and then some other possible initiatives coming forward next year. So this is more or less a summary of the framework, strategic framework, which we call the vision of excellence. And it says, in fact, the Davis University transforms lives. This is our aspiration. While we celebrate humanity and we inspire nurture sustainable future and total economic vitality for the region, to champion health, education, access and opportunity, and to cultivate a culture of organizational excellence. And they are not with a priority. This is all at the highest priority. These are our 6 goals as an institution. Each one of them is as important as any other one. So, what I wanted to say is the following. A lot of times in universities, we develop a vision matrix, and that was developed about 4 years ago. It happened in the first year after I came, so from 2009 to 2010. It was in the summer of 2010 when that was finalized after we got a lot of comment from the faculty, the students there, the staff, and then it's a document that is on the website. But it's a 4-year-old document, like started 5 years ago. And then since then, because of that document and because we had a number of challenges financially speaking, because of cuts that we had from the state, we had increased tuition substantially, there were issues with access for our students. So there were a lot of other activities in addition to just this. And of course, all of them, if you see the 6 goals speak to everything that is important to us. But we asked a lot of faculty and staff and students in the period of these 5 years, if I go back to 2008, in the period of 5 to 6 years, to really come together and give us a lot of advice about a lot of different issues. So we have created about 50 plus reports in this period of time. And every report was specifically looking at one issue or one opportunity or one challenge. And those reports were generated through the work of many. So we did not want to just leave them by the wayside and not recognize that those reports were produced, were hundreds of people put thousands of hours to put them together. And we wanted to see what did we do in response to these recommendations that we got from all of these reports. Did we follow them? Did we leave them aside? Did we ask questions and got recommendations here, but we were doing things there? Was there an alignment between the recommendations and our actions? Now, this is a fundamental question. So we decided about a year ago to look into those 52 now reports that we have and to really look at thoroughly through those reports and then list all of the recommendations and then look at all of our actions and then make a decision of whether, or make an assessment of whether we follow the recommendations and do we have gaps in terms of recommendations and gaps in terms of actions, and what have we learned in these 5 or 6 years, and what are we going to do next? So we started with these reports, and it shows the timeline there. So around January, we had the first draft of these that synthesized all of the findings and recommendations. And then we had a discussion of those with the other vice chancellors, with the deans, and the various, what we call the council of chancellors, vice chancellors, and deans. And we developed other drafts, and finally we had a retreat with the vice chancellors and deans, and that council of vice chancellors and deans is about a group that has 35 people, about 35 people, from a dean and above, primarily. And we had a retreat, and we looked at everything that we've learned from this work, and then on the basis of what we had focused on these past 8 years, 5 years, and what we have been able to initiate or accomplish, then we got some ideas about what the next 5 years should look like. And I think as the next steps, we are going to start next year a process to rethink. It's going to be a 4-year process because we like to engage the whole community to rethink our vision for the next 5 years on the basis of what we have been able to accomplish. So, the summary of the recommendations, and that is the summary of the report, and we will put it on the web, so everybody's going to have access to this report, and everybody can provide suggestions. But it said primarily that all of the recommendations in these 50 plus reports were priorities. To innovate and work to help solve all problems. To embrace a revenue model that both increases revenue and financial stability. And that you need to remember that those recommendations happened during a very difficult financial time for the institution. So that's why that became the second bullet. And the last one is to enhance our capability to be strategic in how we use our resources. And that was also an important time because we were cutting, we had fewer resources, and it was critical for all of us to make sure that we use our resources for our core mission and our core program. So, the observations by looking at the actions we took since 2008 and what we have done and what we need to keep doing. Alright, so you see them on the screen. So we have been able to be successful in improving our financial stability, so now we're stable financially. Do we worry about being able to remain, to have enough to support our programs? Absolutely, but we are stable. The state has stabilized our funding, and that really shows there. So our faculty, students, and our academic programs are receiving increasing recognition, and our reputation is growing with potential to grow even further. These are the three main threads that came from what we've done and where we'll be now 5 years later. But this is what we need to keep doing, because obviously when they tell you you need to keep doing, that means that you have not reached the level of success in that. So we need to be more strategic and prioritize better. We need to align our institutional structures, our processes, our resources, our incentives, and our boards to support our strategic priorities that you saw before. We need to increase transparency and accountability at all levels. We need to increase communication of stories of the excellence that is happening at UC Davis, because there is an amazing volume of work, of high quality work, both in the classrooms, in the programs, in research, in outreach, work that you are doing, all of our students work that our faculty and staff are doing, which we need to communicate so we know ourselves what is happening. There's a lot of times when, as you know, it's easier to communicate negative things. A lot of times that's what we discuss more, but we need to be more intentional in communicating more of the good stories about the university. So now with that in the background, then we go and assess a little bit of what we've done last year, and we will see when I come to the budget, and we'll speak also what has happened between 2008 and 2013. But next year specifically, we talk about our finances, about success, about faculty honors, what we did in research and initiatives, what we've done in education and outcomes and objectives, and what kind of changes we had in the university's leadership teams, or deans and vice chancellors. So this is what shows our projected revenues for 2013-2014. In fact, it's a lot, so I will try to go around, and I would like also to point to, look at these numbers. So this is the 13-14 projected, 3.8 billion. This is the 08-09 total revenues were 3 billion. In 14-15 will be close to 4 billion, right? So what we see is that even at the time when the state reduced our funds, essentially the total revenues of the institution grew substantially. And I will explain why that happened. So here, the 5-year state budget, total revenues. Oh no, excuse me, the 5-year state budget decreased by 30% after we got the 5% last year and 5% this year. Because the total reduction in our state budget was close to 40%. And it happened over a very short period of time. Right? We lost over a very short period of time about 180 million annually. And since then, we have recovered 30 million. year total revenue increased, I should say decreased and increased, I guess, so forget mine, increased by 27%. And we had savings from administrative consolidation of about 30 million annually. So when we started making reductions in our budget, as you will see, we primarily reduced staff positions at all levels, mostly at the highest level. And so that is what really accounts for this 30 million. So look at this one. This is all of the money we have that are projected for 13-14. This is the medical center. So all of these, 41% is 1.5 billion, right? 41% of our budget comes from what is happening in Sacramento on the health system. And most of this money is from the hospital. It's funds that are paid to the university for people who go there to receive health care. And then are all expended into salaries of doctors, nurses, and other salaries. But this is 41% of our budget. Then this is the state unrestricted. This is the 342 that we are receiving this year. 9% this year of our total comes from state funds. This is tuition. This is grants and contracts, and this is all grants and contracts. This is direct, and this is indirect. Indirect is what the federal government or state government is giving us to be able to support administratively the contracts, the research system. This is Pell Grants. You see that we receive indirectly primarily to cover this from the federal. These are sales and services and other auxiliary units that we have, which is primarily for the dorms when you guys live in the dorms and pay rent. These are from gifts, endowments, interest, and everything else. This is what is expendable every year. This is state designated. A lot of times the state gives us money, but they go into these budget line items. So they come, for example, they give us money for the food stamp program. So we manage for the state the food stamp program here. So the state gives us money, it's a pass-through. So we get the money. That's why we say designated, but we are expending it. And then we have student fees, the fees that you pay for all kinds of, from athletics to the to cover the expenses for the student community center, to the student health center. And this is all the funds that we receive every year. Now, this part here went down substantially, but this part grew substantially. This part grew because we increased tuition, if you remember, substantially, unfortunately. But it happened because, let me just tell you why. These ones, even if we make a lot of money, you cannot use this money for anything else because there are funds that are paid by insurance for health care coverage, and it goes into doctors, into procedures, into nurses, into everything. You cannot use this funds for anything else. These ones you cannot use for anything else. If you use money for grants and contracts for anything else, that the federal government will investigate you and eventually remove the contracts. We go through audits regularly in that regard. As a matter of fact, multiple times in a year. These are sales and services, and they go to practically cover making whatever, we pay for whatever services, the people who provide the services, or if we sell something, the people who make them, all right? So it all goes. And auxiliaries goes primarily, they go to support the buildings and the cafeterias and so forth. Gifts and endowments, as you will see, they're all spoken of. Scholarships. The majority of these funds are going to scholarships and for fellowships for graduate students. And then the student fees were all also spoken of. So when this goes down, the only thing that we have to fund the salaries of the faculty and the TAs is this, the sum of the two. So when this goes down, this has to go up. That's the unfortunate thing. Right? So when the state reduces the budget, unfortunately, the only place where that's how it works with us.
I have a good question about that.
Yes.
If you were to look at private schools and say, I don't know, like Stanford or something, would the amount spent per student between the combination of state unrestricted and tuition, would that be comparable to what a student in a private school pays?
Yes. And yes, because if you go to Stanford, for example, the tuition for everybody
Right.
is what, 40, 50,
It has to be around 55 a year.
55 a year. So these two will make that, but there is another thing about the privates. This is pretty huge. The privates have, say, Stanford has what endowment? How many billions? Like 10, 15?
No.
20? What?
It's past 50 for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
Harvard
anyway,
has
whatever
like
it
over
is,
100.
it's huge for us because they have been doing fundraising since they started as schools. We never had to do fundraising because if you go back 30 years, 85% of our budget was coming from the state. And this is our first campaign that we started. We did very well. But it takes, every time you go through a campaign, most of the funds are given for specific expenditures like scholarships, right? So you expend the funds. And only 30% of every campaign becomes an endowment. So for example, for us right now, we have about 1 billion, about 800 million, 900 million in endowment, say 1 billion right now. We have 1 billion endowment. For us to be able to move to 4 billion, it would be important, right? Still nothing baked in, but 4 billion, we will need 2 more campaigns. So this is more or less, it takes time, right? And that's what this
I
does.
was wrong. Apparently Stanford's 20 billion. I just
20
looked it up.
billion.
Harvard is 32 billion.
Yeah. I mean, it's still huge. Any other questions on this? So let me now show you how we spend the money and where money goes. Right? Now, this is here 7-8. The total, now what we call core funds are state funds, state budget, tuition, and student fees, and whatever the UC gives us, because the UC gives part of the state, say the state gives about 2-point-something billion to all of the UCs. And then part stays centrally, and the other part is distributed, and then from the central we get back another part of it. So what you see here as UC general funds is what comes later from the UC, but it's all eventually state funds and whatever may be returns to the endowment that they distribute. So this is what we call core funds. This is what the state funds were in 2007, 2008. Then this was tuition and fees, 7 and 8. Then we go here, and this is now more students, all right? I forgot to tell you that between this and that, we have grown in our number of students quite a bit, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 in that period of time. And we grew not because we had a plan for it, but because we had more students, we had a huge increase in the number of applications. And we had many more students who were eligible, but also, I mean, very good students to be admitted, so we ended up having more students within this year and 5 years later. So, but the state funds, as you can see, went down even for many more students, right? So we had an increase in total tuition and fees, became from these core funds. This is not all of our budget. Remember, this was 3 billion here, and it is 3.8 billion here. So this is only part of our budget. So student tuition and fees, state funds, and that remained about the same. So this was 31, it became 55, that was 60, became 37 of the core funds, 9% practically here, 11% here for the total. And this, it was about 9, became 8. So, but now, I want to show you how we expend the funds. So this is 7 to 8, the same core funds. This is increase equipment, financial aid, 8% at the time was financial aid, benefits for all the faculty and staff. These were the senior management salaries, close to 5 million out of that. Staff salaries, close to 204 million. Academic salaries, faculty and all lecturers and others, 235 million. Then, this is 2012-13. From 62 million financial aid, now we have 138 million financial aid. So there was a growth of about 123% increase in financial aid. We had utilities and equipment went down, right, from 121 million to 79. We tried to cut that, and we cannot keep cutting because I have to tell you what I hear from the faculty now is that our infrastructure is not good, right, in our laboratories, in our research facilities. But we had to do that because we had to cut. And so where do you cut? You don't try to lay off too many people because we're the second largest employer in the state, near in Sacramento after the state. And so if you lay off, whenever you lay off a staff member, it's a whole family behind it. It's not like an easy thing to do. So we try to reduce that. We increased substantial financial aid because tuition was higher and our students, because of the financial crisis in the state, had more need. The benefits increased substantially from 99 million to 161 because of pension, because the state is not paying pension pays pension for everybody, for the CSUs, for the community colleges, but they do not pay pension for faculty and staff for us. So all of this had to come out of our budget. Yeah. I think this one is done. But then staff salaries went from 204 went down to 182, and faculty salaries grew a little bit. We tried to, in the beginning, we had decided to reduce the faculty positions, but at the end we decided to do this to minimize that as much as possible, because with more students you cannot have fewer faculty, right? So we had that. So we had in undergraduates an increase of 8%. These are the numbers. You see, they were in 08, 09, we were 23,000, say. In 12, 13, we had 24.6 thousand undergraduates. Yes.
I may be the only one in the room that's concerned, but how are you able to cut in half the senior management salaries without sort of negatively affecting the ability of the school to run at its optimal abilities?
Well, we tried to eliminate the number of big management positions substantially, and we tried to have a lot of those positions to be on soft funds that you can eliminate them without the money. And a lot of them, so you will see there were serious reductions at that level.
Do you think there's been negative effects on the university?
No, but we cannot reduce it anymore. I mean, that's it. That's the kind of, I don't think that we could reduce this anymore without really impacting the institution. But we focused on that first, to be able to, because we were at the time, when you have 180 million cut out of the university at that time, how do you absorb 180 million, which is all the salaries of people? How do you do that without, doing extreme things, which one of the extreme was increase tuition by 30-some%, right? How many universities do that? And then in addition to that, we had to lay off by staff.
I know there's an annual report about the payments of presidents and chancellors of universities around the country. I know our administration, top administration, generally makes less than average. And do you think that affects the ability of the school to recruit top people?
At some point, it's going to affect the ability of the universities to attract good people. That's what it's going to happen. So let me go to this one. So now you see how we ended up cutting, right? It shows here. So when you look on funds is tuition, if you remember, state funding. So in 2007-8, on core funds, we had this many administrative FTEs. These are all the staff we would have for academic programs and support, right? We would have not faculty law, only academic staff, only staff and support. We reduced that 14%. On clinical, however, research grew because our research grew substantially. And our clinical work, so our hospital has grown. We have many more beds right now, many more people who come to the hospital for health care. And so it grew there, these funds. But then if you go to, these are what we call the senior management positions. So the senior management positions went from 289 to 220. This is also, what is the PSS?
Professional services staff.
Professional services staff, which is also in support of the administration, central administration. They went down by 11% to the total of about 12% around the year. So we try to reduce these numbers as much as we could. Okay. Now, do you have any questions about the budget before I move to other topics? This is just a summary, you need to remember. There's much more into the budget. Then if you are interested at some point you learn more about the budget, it's a lot, but I'm trying to summarize. Okay, here is what I presented. It's a slide that I feel very proud of because it really shows what the university is trying to do during a very difficult time. So first of all, we are one of the top 10 public research universities in the US. This is really wonderful for the institution because it speaks so well to the work of the faculty and students and the staff. Okay? Because we are there because of their work. We are number one in agriculture, forestry, and sustainability in the world, consistently. We have many more, and I have not included that there, but we have many more programs that are also so veterinary medicine, number one in the country. We have a number of programs which are in the top 10, the top 20. We have many more in the top 20. So there are a number of programs that are in the top 20 coming from much lower. So we have a number of programs that are on the way up. And all of this is happening in the last 10 years. However, our class is the most diverse class we have in the history of UC Davis, and I will show you some of the progress that we have made. We have ways to go, don't take me wrong, but at least there has been progress. And in terms of social mobility, 53% of our undergrads pay no tuition because of scholarship, and they don't have any loans. And so,
I was going to ask about that.
yes,
53% of the undergrads don't pay tuition and are not taking loans.
for tuition. But they take loans for their own personal cost of living.
Okay, I just find the number hard to believe.
Yes, and it is a true number. But we have never spoken about this number before. 53% of the students.
And it's like, there's no housing subsidy, so if you,
No housing,
So
just
you-
tuition.
Yeah, I know, but that's something that's really high number.
It is a high number. And I have to tell you, we are not the only one that you see is very close to that. But nobody has spoken about this. That's what it is amazing, isn't it? When I saw this number, I could not believe it. And nobody has spoken about this number. There is 53% of the undergrads pay no tuition. And how they recover it through financial aid, all right, that is either state funded but no loans for tuition. The same kids, however, or many of these kids may have loans to cover their cost of living because they cannot, or they have work study. So the average loan, do you know how much do you think is the average loan that the student in UC Davis pays? So could you guys tell me, is it, you know?
I don't know at UC Davis. I know that the average just came out for class of 2014 around the country was approximately $30,000.
Over the whole Now, 45% are Pell Grant recipients. It's a very large number. We are the highest in the US. President Obama called for the other institutions to go to 20%. And he made that a challenge for the other universities, and we are at 45. And 68% of our students pay less than 25K in total tuition fees for an undergraduate degree. And that, of course, includes, all right, some of the 53%. So 2/3 of our students pay less than $25,000 graduate in tuition and fees.
Is that including the cost of housing for your
No.
teacher, the dorms, even the dorms?
I don't
And if
think
you live
so.
in university housing?
No,
If
no.
you live in university
No,
housing?
this is tuition and fees.
Tuition.
Because there are a lot of students who come, but they have no means of covering anything. So these kids may have to pour the money for that. So I personally think this is amazing what the university was able to do in a very difficult time. And you saw what that's why financial aid has grown so much. I remember it was before it has grown by 127%. And that's an important thing to take, because our state does have a growing population of students who are of kids who come from high school who are very talented but financially underprivileged. And so we need to provide access.
So what do these numbers look like under the subset of students who have like expected family contributions of 0? Like,
I don't
could be
but
interested just subsets.
they are available. So if you guys think if you want to see anything else in terms of any other breakdown, just make a list and we go to our financial aid office and take the numbers. All right, faculty honors. Last year, so you see how you have to feel proud for the faculty you have at this university. Just last year, we had 43 top honors for our faculty. So 17, these are academies, these are major academies that it becomes, I'll give you an example, you none of them that I know, but 17 fellows in the American Association for the Advancement of Science, 3 fellows in the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, 1 in the National Academy of Science, 1 in the National Academy of Engineering, 2 in the National Institute of Medicine, 1 National Book Critics Circle Award, and that Wood Prize, which is like the Nobel Prize in agriculture. We got it again this year. We have 5 people in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences who have received this prize. So 5 people in their amazing recognition. So let me just tell you, you see this one we had 1, and I know this because I am a member of this Academy of Engineering, and I served in those committees where they make the selection. So the National Academy of Engineering, which is the U.S. National Academy of Engineering, has about 2,500 members, 2,500. They've decided to keep that constant. So for a new member to make it, one other member has to die because it's unfortunate. I'm sorry for saying that, but these are live, these are live. So, every year they accept somewhere between 35 to 55 maximum. 55 really a good about that. 35. So, and 50% of them are from industry. So they decided, because engineering there are many engineers who work, more engineers work for industry than universities are industry. So, say when you have 40 positions open, 20 is only from any faculty who comes from any engineering school in the US. And there are 350 or 400 engineering schools in the US. And so there are close to 800 nominations every year, from which they select about 20 to become members. And it's all types of engineering, electrical, mechanical, there are close to 12 different sections. So it's very difficult for a school to have a member every year, and we have had a member every year in the last few years. But we have a major effort underway to nominate our faculty, but the fact that we had one this year is amazing. It was in bioengineering. Her name is Kathy Ferrara, for you who know. But in all of the others is the same for all of the other categories. So the fact that we have so many is an amazing, testimonial for the quality of our faculty. And we, yes.
How does that compare to other UCs?
This year, in terms of annually, we are probably one of the best. But in overall numbers, we're not as big as Berkeley, UCLA, or UC Santiago. Because it's the historically how many, so Berkeley has the largest number because they have been a lot more successful over the years. But this year, we were one of the 17 fellows. I think we were second in the country in the first academy. And overall, we have been probably one of the top one or two in the UC. Now, research, I want to tell you, we have, in terms of students, amazing awards, but they are in the hundreds. So you could not, because our student was very difficult, we don't have a good database to really know all of the awards that our students. At some point it would be nice to keep a database of all of the awards our undergraduate and graduate students receive, but I do not have a complete database. But we have awards in the hundreds that our students are receiving. And these are honorary scholarships or fellowships. They're honorary awards that come with a stipend and so forth, but they are really, really many. So our research has grown to 754 million, and it has really tripled in the last 12 years. And you will see, in fact, how it has changed. We decided in 2010 to keep 18 million, 20 million came out of overhead from the ARA. Do you guys remember the ARA program? Maybe none of you, but when we had a huge economic downturn in the US in 2009, President Obama created a program that is called
American Recovery and Reinvestment Act.
Yes, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. It was primarily to infuse funds into the universities and other industries and infrastructure and so forth to be able to keep people into work. Otherwise, we would have huge unemployment. So a big amount, a good amount of those other funds came to universities, and we also received faculties proposals, and we received other funds. And then when you do research, there is an overhead that comes with it to really cover all of the administrative costs, which is like lights, maintenance, and so forth, laboratory expenditures, and so forth. And we decided not to put the money into to distribute it, but to keep the funds aside and use them to make an investment back into research to help our faculty and staff and students, primarily graduate students who truly depend on research funds, to come together and do interesting work in new areas so we can have new ideas, right, and can be more successful in the programs. So we created two programs. The RISE program is Research Investment in Science and Engineering. It's 11 million over 3 years. And the Interdisciplinary Frontiers in the Humanities and Arts, 3.6 million over 3 years. And also we use the Research Bridge program, 3 million, which primarily says the following. If you're a faculty member, and you have a number of graduate students on a grant, and you get a new grant, but there is a gap between the old grant and the new grant. To cover the students and their salaries, we create those bridge programs. So the university has this program, and if the faculty sees that there's going to be a gap in funding, so they can request for money from the Office of Research.
Is that 754 million public public research money or private research that is that too?
Everything.
Everything, so what percentage of it is public versus private?
Most of it is public, about 80%,
85, I would say.
85% is public, federal and state. And 15% is private companies. Which I think we need to have a better blend for stability because in our research, because if the government has a problem, all of the government has a problem, the federal and the state, and then you want to be more diversified in the research portfolio, otherwise you're going to be laying off people by the dozens, by the hundreds. If the government say, another problem, for example, I don't know how much you know about the remind me, how do you recall these last 3 years that the government could not decide on a budget? On the sequestration. When we had the problem with sequestration, and the government could not create a budget, and then would cut the budget, so the federal government had a problem all of it. NSF, the National Science Foundation, the National Institute for Health, and the federal government has a problem, the state government's a problem. So we want to be more diversified and get funding from companies like engineering, for example, works with companies, engineers too, most of the time, right? That's where the funding is coming from. So you wanna have good balance so you don't fall off the cliff altogether.
I just think that's against the university's purpose over a public university. Stanford can get all the private research they want. We're a public university.
Let me ask you this. I understand we're a public university, but when we produce engineers, what do you think? Why do we produce engineers? What do you think engineers work for?
A lot of work in the private sector. Yeah.
So then, in that case, we should not have produced engineers, right? I mean, if I were to follow your
No, that's
line
not
of
at all.
thinking.
That's not my line of thinking at all.
So why do you say that we should not do basic research, which is important to industry?
Because when you get funding from certain entities, it's not just that they want to give you money and they expect something back from it, right? When a private corporation, private entity, they have a different agenda behind it.
Well,
I'm happy here at 85, 50. I thought it was,
No,
I thought it
let
was
me
much
just,
lower.
can I say, I think I would respectfully disagree with you. Because I'm an engineer, and then the engineering faculty, the primary funding comes from industry. And industry comes to you like Boeing, for example, right? Boeing makes planes. And they will come because they want somebody to make a new design in one of their engines, right? And they like basic research. They're not going to come to you to develop for them their new planes, all right? They do it themselves, but they will come to a university because they want to study a new phenomenon, they want to try a new design, all right? So that's going. You can have, for example, what is the other? Another company would be Mars. They make food. They may come to here and say, well, how about looking at some, we had a lot of faculty in agriculture who work for Mars, and they're looking into new ways of creating healthier, products. They're making pet food. I mean, they're looking at safety and other things, and the basic research is done here. So, of course, industry at the end, a lot of these public companies at the end, they have as a goal to make profit. But when they come here, they come to us for basic research. And the good thing about doing basic research for a company is that they are the ones who look at real problems. The government is not the one that defines the real problem. As an engineer, I want it to work. I want it to work on real problems. And how do you do that?
Well, I want to work on your real problems when I graduate, and I'm going to work with the government.
The government works, a lot of it, do you know how the government does research?
Engineering,
You know how the government does research in engineering? They give all of the money to companies. The companies do research for the government.
I disagree with that principle.
Well,
That's the privatization of the UC. That's the privatization of government in general.
you know what? I don't think so. I think I would call that privatization.
What do you call it?
I would call, what do you call privatization?
The more influence of private ideology companies over public goods.
But they are coming here to do basic research.
To make a profit, to make money.
Is this basic research available to everybody? Or
Of course it's available available to everybody.
So this is basic research that is being funded by a company that is available to everybody in the entire industry. And when everybody in that industry uses it, that's a public good.
But when the industry is negative for society, I don't agree with that.
But this wouldn't get done, period. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
if
you
no one,
have,
the government is not gonna fund research into how to best make healthy food for a pet.
yeah.
That's an incredibly important part to millions of Americans.
I'm not against all the research, but I wish that, I doubt there's any place where I can look and see all $174 million and where exactly it's coming from, where exactly it's from. Is there a document where I can see that?
Of course you can ask for it, you can go for the public information, you can file for a freedom of information.
Oh, that's a
application.
long process, but I can do
Well,
that.
I mean, they will give it to you without asking for that. I mean, of course, you go to Office of Research, Carl is going to give it to you, and you will see where the funds come from. It will be from medical industry, the ones that make the drugs. Now, you can argue the drug companies make a lot of money, but we need the drugs. I mean, I have all kinds of pills here. So, whether you want us not to participate in doing this kind of thing,
Some of it,
this
yes.
is important. What are you talking about?
Pharmaceutical companies do a lot of horrible things in this country. Like,
They do some good things, some of us
I'm not
live.
saying they don't do good things, but I'm saying that when it's a public university, the benefit should go to the public and private institutions.
But when a company, so here's the issue. I know where you come from, and you speak about an idea, but we live in an environment where the companies in this country, all right, where the federal government is not manufacturing everything. We need companies for us to live. I mean, that is what you see is coming out of a company that is making money every time I buy shoes, we buy your hat. I mean, everything we have, we own, is not made by the federal government. I mean, I think we graduate designers who would like to go and they would like to work for the company to learn how to design real things. There are engineers who would like to work for the company to learn how to make real things. Kellogg, for example, the company that makes cereal, what do you think? They make profit of it, but there are a lot of faculty who do research on how to make it more healthy, how to make it less costly, and how to package it easier so it becomes more safe. I mean, these are all things we as a society need. And yes, there are people in this political system, in the US and Europe, most political systems around the world, for every good thing that we are using, there is a company that makes it. And the capitalistic system we live in, we may not like it for some of us, but we all live in a system that is producing everything we need, from the most critical items we need every day to the less critical ones, through private interest. And unless you work with them, and hopefully the ones, I mean, you're not going to go and you work for a company that has, for example, as a main goal to develop things which are destructive.
Military good.
Well, the federal government, the military is in the federal government.
There's private companies that work for the federal government.
She only has 15 minutes left, and I think there's more
So,
present.
what I'm saying though, I understand how you may not want to do what I say, that there are many other companies that do good things.
So there's one.
But you said that you don't like that they make profit. So, but companies make profit. That's what it is. So it's,
Anyway, I think that is more.
yeah, we'll move on. But I'm saying that in my mind, I think it's very important for the university to work with industry, as long as this industry aligns well with the values of the institution. At least one. Anyway, so maybe we can discuss about that later. All right, that is the research that the university has had over time, from 269 in 2000 to 754. So it shows really our faculty are doing amazing work. All right, educational outcomes and objectives. We have the largest now and most diverse student cohort. 25% of our incoming students are underrepresented minorities. We had a 15% increase over the previous year. But I think on the basis of what we have been trying to increase these numbers will keep increasing at a higher rate. So, and of course, they are student cohorts that come from the state of California, California are very diverse anyway. So this year, for example, we have the highest number of Hispanic students, close to 25 or 26% of the incoming class. This is of the overall cohort, right? The incoming class is even more diverse than that. We have the highest yet quality of applicants and admitted students, and we have yet the highest number of admissions this year. So we see it's getting more and more difficult for good students to come. So we reinvested 16 million this year into advising TAs to improve the student experience. And however, we have a need to work in improving the time to degree. We are at 53% full year graduation is too low. We need to be at 75, and we hope to be there by 2017-18. We would like to achieve a 6-year graduation rate from 82%, which is now, to 96%. And we need to check the progress at 2017-18 for that. We will become a Hispanic serving institution by 2018. And while we do all of these, we need to make sure also that we eliminate the gap between this number. These are average numbers, all right, of 4-year and 6-year graduation rates. But there are small or bigger, there are some gaps between these numbers for the for the underrepresented students and for the other students, for the rest of the students. So we like, the goal is not just to improve the numbers, but also to eliminate the gap that we can see over time. And Adela Direttore, the Office of Student Affairs, is very much engaged in this, together with the Office of the Provost, and we will really measure our success over the next few years in terms of trying to improve this numbers. All right, these are 4 new people that we added to our leadership team. So Adela Direttore is our new Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs. Jacob Applesmith is our Chief Campus Counselor. Helene Dillard is our new Dean of the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, and Julie Christlack is our new Vice Chancellor of Human Health and Dean of Humanities. And I think there are a number of other now, some of you have participated in some searches. We have new searches for the Vice Provost for international programs, the Vice Provost for and CIO or IT. And the CFO, and the Chief Financial Officer. Without any particular prioritization, all of these are the top 5 initiatives at the same level of importance. The World Food Center, the One Community, One UC Davis initiative, primarily to bring us together as a campus. We would like to improve the student experience. That's an initiative for us. The 2020 initiative and the One Health System within One UC Davis. So that is the one that I told you that over time, our health system got a little separated from us, and now we're trying to integrate. So these are the 5 initiatives that we have. The World Food Center, we tried to raise 100 million in endowment to sustain its operation over 5 years. It was formally established in June 2015. It's going to be a policy institute. Really, because all of our research centers and educational centers are already 35 plus centers in all aspects of food. But we don't have a policy institute where we can create a neutral platform on which we can have very informed decisions about food, all aspects of it, and to help inform, use science to inform policies at the state and the federal levels, and also internationally, because now we are one system, right? What happens with food in China impacts us. If, for example, there is an issue with food safety in China and the Chinese go out and import food from the rest of the world, the rest of us will have less food available, it's going to become more expensive. And then so food safety and food security are very critical worldwide problems. This is the One Community, One UC Davis initiative. You may have seen that Timmy says there's a global network that is transforming lives. We want to highlight our people. We want to make sure that we are one community, the faculty, the staff, and the students. And we integrate our activities and one way to communicate about these things. Improving the students' experience, primarily we want to improve advising, increase financial aid, improve counseling, and reduce time to degree. And we have in 2013-14, we are investing close to 20 million advising TAs, additional counseling services, and support also for undergraduate students. So also we established a faculty in residence program for the student dorms. Now the faculty will stay there for some time to be able to interact with students and have programs in the evenings. They will live in the dorms and they will do programming for the students.
I was going to ask this at the end since it's on the slide now. I thought I might as well bring it up. There's been a lot of talk about this whole presentation about the science side of our university and how strong it is. You know, I'm focusing on political science and economics, and when I was graduating, when I was working to get a job, the career center was pretty much zero help to me, and I was spending 10 to 15 hours a week doing personal networking, cold calling everybody I could think of, anyone we could be in touch with, in order to find a job when I graduated. And I had just come back and started a broad program that was with students mostly from private schools, especially on the East Coast, who had incredibly strong career service centers that were doing great placement. Is there any work being done to help with the career placement? You know, we're all here to get a degree, but the degree is so we can get a job. And
I agree.
and it feels like there's not much help from the university on that aspect of a really important part for a lot of students.
So the Career Center moved recently to the Student Affairs, primarily to bring the center closer to the office that cares about students and student placement. It was before under the provost. It was mostly done in the past as a center that focused in, well, it was not as, I don't want to say the details, it was not the way I had seen career centers working more, we needed more activity, and so we moved it to a Dallas office, and then also we have a new director.
They're doing a national search
They're
right now
doing right
for
now
a
a new director.
director of the
Right.
ICC. They didn't have a director.
Right, and we have submitted also, we expect to receive a major gift to create either a career center separately or to create within, depending on the size of the gift, right? Or create programs that will focus more on placing students, and not just students here locally in the US, but also internationally. Because there are a lot of opportunities, and a lot of companies have moved in with their headquarters and other activities around the world. And there are many opportunities for our students to work there. So I agree with you, it has not been as good as it can be. And so there is an effort to really scale it up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Adela would have, or Emily would have more details, but it seems to me the university needs to work more with private companies in order to increase recruiting on campus, because you know, when you go through and see the recruiting even at UC Berkeley, UCLA, it's completely different standard from the recruiting that happens on UC Davis.
Especially it's like worse on the downstream side. There needs to be some recruitment drives, targeted recruitment drives from campus and private companies and state agencies, federal agencies.
I agree. You know, there was a time, I think we need to go back and really we need to pursue companies and help us with internships, and not just, you know, because to be able to find a job, you really need to have an opportunity to work someplace, and when people get to know you, then they will probably hire you and do a good job. So internships are very important as well.
So just kind of one more detail right below towards the
That's why we're trying to build a new center,
Oh, you meant a physical
a
center?
physical
I thought you
center.
meant move the office away from the student.
No.
An actual center.
An actual center. So we have a gift that's we believe we will receive. That's right. I mean, bring people to interview others, and when are you going to place them in the basement? And they, I mean, people are they we don't want to, you know, what I want to say. Of course, you know, the fundamental emphasis will be on the quality of the people, but at the same time, the way we present our campus is very important. That's why we built this welcome center, you know. We had one very small activity. Parents will come with their students, for example, same thing, companies will come, and they will see, they don't see an environment they can feel it represents the quality they would like to see. They don't come. And so that is one of those.
And I feel like other countries are really well in this regard. Like, coming from India, like we have special recruitment drives, like 3 days, you know, at the end of your degree, like when you're about to graduate, you know, companies come in like for 3 days, it's an extensive recruitment drive. It's very prestigious.
Right, I think just so we can leave more time, the 2020 initiative, you know, we are moving, you know about the initiative. We have the students who are coming, great students as a matter of fact. We have not really seen this year yet the final numbers because, you know, students are making up their minds right now, but we have had a great group of applications and we have been very successful in attracting great kids. And so the initial SRAs
And this is just my second question that would be at the end since it's here. Is it a goal of UC Davis to sort of get to the level of UC Berkeley, UCLA, where we stand competitively in those standings? And if that's a goal, are we trying to make our admissions decisions reflect that goal?
So the goal is to make our university a top one in the UC, right? And I believe that essentially that's going to happen. Now, is it not going to happen overnight? It's not that. It's going to take time and consistent effort. You don't move your standards without moving the cohorts of the students who are interested in coming. So it's a step-by-step process. But what we have seen every year, we have get more and better students who are interested, and we had more of those better students who are coming. And so over time, I think in terms of the quality standards, yeah, will be definitely close to Berkeley and UCLA. And that is the goal. But also we want to do that while we strive for diversity. And we have been able to get excellent students who also come from diverse backgrounds by going now, we go actively to high schools. We were not doing recruiting before. We recruit high school students. We go to the high schools that have diversity and have quality. And we target these high schools. And everywhere in the state, wherever they are. And so we go out. Faculty work, since we are not going to only grow in students, you know, as part of the 2020, we are growing in faculty as well. So we are plan to grow by 300, and now because of the growth and because of the retirements, about another 300 or 400 faculty in the next 6 years, we're going to recruit about 600 to 700 new faculty by 2020. And this past fall, we opened 116 searches, and another additional 60 faculty positions, in fact, as part of what the provost calls the HIP program, which is a new program that they ask for proposals from the various colleges and departments, primarily to give faculty positions with joint appointments. So they came, a lot of faculty from different departments came together and proposed new areas, and they just finished the first round of that program. So they will distribute 25 new faculty positions to this. So we are recruiting really well this year, and I think this is going to ramp up. So I talked about this as a matter of fact, but what I wanted to move and say, we brought also the first time we had a director of academic advising, because this is important because academic advising was totally distributed, was happening in different colleges and departments. We did not have a sense of the quality, so for the first time we are integrating the advising program with one director to make sure that all of the advisors have the same training, they have the same standards and so forth. Now, new buildings, very important, all right? We talked that we have really an aging infrastructure, so our deferred maintenance is close to 1.3 billion. And deferred maintenance has been created over many years, so it's going to take us many years to renovate all of the buildings, but we have a list of, because of the 2020 initiative, more money we have this year. In addition to the new museum, we're building a new recital hall. The new recital hall is going to have, both the museum and the recital hall will have classes, all right, so we have spaces like that. But the new recital hall is going to have a 350 student auditorium where we teach there. We're looking at a new classroom building, which is going to have a reconfigurable student auditorium. And if you know anybody who has any ideas, please speak with me or others about how this building should look like. There are initial designs. This is going to be next to, who knows? Hutchinson, next to that. We are going to renovate Walker Hall, and we're going to make Walker Hall and Henning Hall. We'll make Walker Hall a graduate student community center, but the TAs will be able to go there with their students because it's close to the undergraduate community center, so we'll have the two together and close to the library. Henning Hall also is going to be for new classrooms and stuff. Every time we'll renovate the buildings, we'll make them look new, right? We'll just keep, they have good structures, so we don't want to just take them out. And we use them, but we practically rebuild it if we want. And then we have a new building. We call it Chemistry of Life, but it's going to create laboratories for all the faculty that use chemistry in some ways. We come from College of Biological Sciences, from mathematical and physical sciences, and from engineering, from whatever. We build also, we have two committees, and it's not here, I should add it. In addition to the lab building, we're going to have also another similar building, which is not going to have laboratories, it's going to be for social sciences and humanities and so forth, to bring faculty together who work together around specific topics. And that is another committee that is working on it.
Where's that building?
They are looking. They have not been decided yet. There are two faculty committees that are working.
Are there students on this committee?
I said faculty. There are students and staff. And then we have the new complex, which also renovate the MU and then rebuild Trevor to create one complex. So I will speak. This is the health system. Very quickly, I wanted to say that the health system has done an amazing job. We have a number of hospitals, but the primary hospital has 619 beds, and right now it's 95% occupancy, so we will probably grow it. We have many research programs. We have about 9,000 staff in Sacramento, about 1,500 faculty there, about 882 residents, and 817 students in medical school. One of the things that I feel mostly proud of, and I don't know whether you've heard about this, have you heard about telemedicine? This is a way of connecting the health system with all of the centers that we see, especially these are remote areas in the state, and where they don't have expert specialist doctors, expert doctors, and then they connect with the specialist. You see that? There is a little kid and a doctor in one of the centers, and then you see on TV is a specialist from the health system. And that telemedicine program now has connected 100. The goal is to go to 800 eventually sites, more than 35,000 consultations. it's underway, it's going. That's the research, but that's part of what I'm going to speak about, it's part of the overall. Now, this is a different, this is our campaign. This is how the yellow line shows where we wanted to go, and the blue line shows what we were able to accomplish. So you see that the end of the campaign was here, but we were able to really achieve 1.1 billion way before that, which is a good thing. So most of them, and I will show you the next one, you will see where the funds have been utilized, all right? So this is 65% went to what we call current funds, so things that we expended. 24% in endowments, and it's about 20% that normally goes into an endowment after a campaign. 11% went to buildings. But here is how we spend it mostly. 46%, which is the yellow, the green, is student and faculty scholarships, research and instruction. It went primarily to scholarships, fellowships, and other things related to instruction. Then, the third part is programs and patient care. So programs mean academic programs, right? So it could be laboratory, it could be equipment for labs, it could be equipment for the hospital, it could be other things that can be utilized for the various classes that we teach, educational or research programs. 10% was university environmental benefits student. It could be, for example, things that we've done in the student community center, a lot of expenditures there and these types of things. 4% emerging opportunities, I don't know what that means, so 4% went to different types of things. 14%, let's say this, student support project UCAN. That is about 120 million that we raised primarily to cover student scholarships and fellowships, in addition to the 46%, which also went to. But we colored it as 14% because it was under the UC program and it was all done together. So in reality, it's the same number. And 5% went to endowed chairs and professorships. That's how the funds were utilized. Physical plan. Very quickly, I would like to show you that we started planning program to really look into our campus. This is what capital planning is. We have to look at our campus and envision our campus of how it's going to look over time. So we have a plan in place as we fix new old buildings, create new ones, create landscaping and so forth. And we want our campus to look beautiful, right? So that shows in fact, you see the health sciences, this is the veterinary medicine district. And you see how we added new buildings. There's a visitor center, there's a cafeteria. It's another building, student building that we have. And then it shows how we plan to do the landscaping so it extends the arboretum. So we try to have a landscaping that's very similar to what we have already. Here you see how we have divided the campus in what we call the civic core, so we create districts, all right? Civic core means what connects the MU, the library, and the Vanderhof quad, so the MU quad and the Vanderhof. It shows how the buses and bike routes will go, where the arboretum goes. It divides it into districts, so you can have a humanities and arts and social science district, you could have a sciences district, you could have a health science district, which is the revenue, and so forth. And then we have the entrance to the campus. So we look at the campus like a city, and we try to have a distinct architecture that will eventually characterize our campus, make sure that it looks beautiful, and then so we know, for example, which buildings have to be. So you see all of these dots when we do that, shows the buildings that we have to consider for renovation, and then we make a list of these buildings with campers and so forth, and then we decide how to pay for them. So this is a 10-year projection plan that we are in the process of developing. It has not finished. We these are some early parts of it. There is going to be in the fall a major layout public event to have the community see what the plan shows and receive feedback and so on. And this is the UC Davis Sacramento campus, and I will finish with that. And that shows that the similar impact that happens the next one. It shows a similar study that is done in the Sacramento campus where they divide it into the education and research core and then the other hospitals around and so forth. So that's a similar plan that we create for the campus. And this is more or less all of what we're doing, I mean, as a summary point to get a sense of where we are and what we have accomplished this year. So. Make sure that, or if you see anything that is boring or not important, I'm going to remove that.
That's good.
If you have any questions about additional information that this may trigger your appetite for them. Sure, yes, we will, Carl is going to send it to you. So a lot of work, I think, you guys need to feel proud for this university. A lot of work has been done. I'm sure there is a lot more work that needs to be done, but the universities by very hard with its values, I think. So, personally, I'm very proud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being Thank you for this
Oh, is she going over?
No, I can't.
Well, yeah. No, that's the easiest one.
They do want the other one hard too, but some of the other areas.
It's like once you know math, it's less time consuming to do math.
I just have to help you on it. Make sure.
Right. So it's like right, and learning how to understand.
Okay, I'll listen, I'm sorry. I'll just listen.
Hey, Patrick,
Yeah.
I was wondering if I could set up a meeting.
But it really does change the
Yeah.
nature.
I've just been long researches and stuff. Okay. But yeah, reading this email as well to see which time, right?
It's not like it's
Rows here or
so we're actually forward. So this will be part of that discussion. And the resources have to be.
Okay, I'm just getting my card.